we'll go ahead and jump in and get started. So like I said, my name's Ashley Lamonji, and we are going to be going over job site management in RedTeam Flex today. So I am inside of our project, our Jungle Cruise refurb that we have been using for these webinars. And what we want to take a look at first is going to be our project plan room. Now, we did mention in one of our previous trainings that there is this icon up at the top. Now, this is where you can send out the link to your plan room to whoever you would like. You can email it out from here. Also, keep in mind when you are sending things out, such as RFQs, if you attach your plans and specs to your subcontract agreements, this link is also going out with that, and they are getting the information to log into that plan room. You yourself, when you want to log into a project plan room, you're actually going to enter the project and you're going to come up to this little home tab right here, this little home icon. And all the way down at the bottom, you're going to see the online plan room. So we're going to go ahead and select that and jump into this plan room. Also, before I forget to mention, if you do have any questions while we are going through this, we do have a chat and a Q&A, and I do have Sarah here watching those. So if you have any questions, just feel free to throw them in there. So this is going to open up into our project plan room. So for this project here, we have a few tabs activated. So our profile, our plans and specs and submittals. We're going to see our project that we're working in, the name of our project, logo up here at the top. Then we're going to see a few pieces of information. So first, we're going to see our location. Now, this is the location of our project. It's going to give us a Google Maps of that. We're going to be able to see any favorited photos for our project. And in just a second, I will show you where you can go ahead and access those. Then down on this bottom left-hand corner, we're going to see contact information for the project manager on the job. So any information that we have provided in that employee's profile, that's going to show up here as far as contact information. So for myself, I am the project manager on this job. This is my email address, and this is my phone number that I have already on file. Then we're going to have our weather. So again, this is pulling from Google from this address here. Now you do have the option, and again, we will take a look at this in just a second, but you do have the option of configuring each project plan room per project and showing exactly the information that you would like to show. So for this project, we have at the moment, we have activated our plans and specifications and our submittals. This is not all that can be shown on your project plan room. Again, this is just what is chosen for this, and I'll go ahead and show you what those additional options are in just a second. So when we have these tabs, pretty much when you click into the tab, you're going to have your listed information. So on this one here, we have our plans and specifications. We're going to have all of those plans and specifications listed. It's going to be the option up here to request a bid. They can filter through them, download, maybe print the list here. But all they're going to do is they're going to open up. You're going to see a hyperlink here. They're going to open up those plans and they're going to be able to view them. Now there is this drop down here. They do not have to back out of this screen and open each page separately. This will allow them to drop down. All of the pages are going to be listed here. There's also, I only have the one page here on this, but there will be a toggle left and right button so they can kind of scan through each of the pages. With our submittals, this is going to show us any submittal items that we have. So it's going to have all of this information, the name of the title of the submittal item, if it was approved, rejected, who is responsible, if there were any attachments for that submittal itself, you're going to be able to open those via the hyperlink. So like I said, each option you have will have its own tab. It's going to have everything listed that you are choosing to show. There's going to be filter options, download options for each of those tabs. Now let me go ahead and I'm going to show you where you are going to configure these plan rooms. So once you're in your project, you're going to go to your scope tab. You're going to select your edit button. One second. Alrighty, we're going to scroll down and we're going to go to this include in plan room banner. Now, the first thing we're going to see here is a broadcast message. Now, a broadcast message is going to display at the top of your plan room in a yellow bar, and it's a way to draw attention to whoever is logging into your plan room. So maybe let's say you have a new updated schedule and you really need whoever is logging in there to go and take a look at that schedule. You could just write here, please take a look at updated schedule. Now, this is going to place, like I said, a yellow banner up at the top of the plan room. A couple things to keep in note about this. You cannot set like an expiration date on it or anything. So once you do want this message removed, you're going to come back in here, edit, remove the message, or change the message. Go ahead and leave that, and I'll go and show you what that looks like on the plan room in just a second. Now, these are going to be your options for tabs. So we saw our plans and specifications. For submittals, you have a few options. Do you want to include submitted submittal items, approved, or rejected? So we can go ahead, let's go ahead and check them all off. For RFIs, you can choose to include open RFIs or closed RFIs. You can choose to include your schedule. So this is going to be the latest committed schedule. So we're only going to be able to see the latest updated schedule. And then our checklist. So we can go ahead and include requests for corrections in our committed status. Now we are also going to have an option here to require a token to access our plan room. Now this is pretty much a two-factor authentication. So when let's say a subcontractor signs into your plan room, they're going to input some information like a project number, their first and last name, the company they're working for, and their email address. Now, once they submit that, when this is unchecked, it's going to take them straight into the plan room. If you have requiring a token, it's going to send them a code to that email. I think it's usually like a 5-6 digit numerical code. They're going to input that code into the form, and then it will take them into that plan room. So just a little extra layer of security there. And then what we're going to have, if there is something that you need to add to your plan room that is not included in the above options, you can choose to add other files. So you're going to organize those other files by heading. So when you select this add heading, it's going to drop down here. It'll say heading, but you can change that. So you change it to whatever you would like, say just other files here. Then you're going to save, and then you're going to add the attachments. So you can add whatever it is you would like. Again, that is not included in the above options. So once you've made those changes, you'll go ahead and save. And again, these are going to be per project. There is no real global configuration of the plan room. So let's just one more time go back into that plan room. So again, I'm going to that little red house here up at the top, and I'm going to select my online plan room. Now you'll see here, I'm going to have that broadcast message. So it kind of draws your eye to it here. So please take a look at my updated schedule. I activated these additional tabs. So we're going to see all of the tabs here at the top. RFIs here. So if we have any RFIs, on the RFI we did, we had attachments, so we can actually open and view those attachments. Again, I don't have a schedule for this project, but if I had a schedule, it would be the last updated schedule. They will click a link here and it'll open up that schedule for them to view. And then any other files. Again, they're going to be divided by headings, and then you'll see those attachments there. And that is going to be it for the plan room. So if you have any questions, I'll go ahead and take a brief stop, or if you want to throw them into the Q&A. Did we get any while we were going, Sarah?
No, I'm not seeing any at the moment.
Alrighty. All right. So next thing what we're going to take a look at is going to be our Gantt schedule. So on this tab list here, we're going to go all the way over to our schedule. And then in order to kind of start building this or make any edits to our schedule, we're going to hit our edit button. So this blue button over here on the side. It's going to give us the option, do we want to import any holidays? I'll go ahead and just say okay. All right, so pretty much up at the top here, you're going to have some pretty standard buttons. So you'll have your plus new, it's going to add a new task. So you see when I press that, it adds a task here to my list. The X is going to be removing a task. We're going to have the option to indent, so kind of nest tasks under a larger task. We can outdent to remove them. There's an undo redo button. There is a critical path, so we can highlight our critical path, which is going to be the longest stream of tasks that we have within a project. Then you're going to have the option here, zoom to fit and maximize. Now we do have some import options. If you are using Microsoft projects, there is an import and export that you're going to be able to use with Microsoft projects. And then you can also import from another Red Team project. Now, when you do import from another Red Team project, you're going to need to know the project number and the scope of that project that you are trying to bring the schedule in from. So you'll see here, I already added my 2 tasks, so I'm going to do that again from this plus new button. And there are a couple ways that I can kind of update this information. So first way I can do this is I can double click on the fields. So kind of like working with your typical spreadsheet. So here we'll say my new task is going to be pre-construction. I can give it a duration. I can give it a start, a finish date. I can go ahead and set any predecessors. So all of this information, again, I can just go field by field and double click in there and just change that information. What I can also do is I can click on the task and I can right click and go to my task information. Now with task information, it's going to be all of that same information that was still on the sheet there. It's just in a little text box for us to fill it out all at one time. So we can give our task a name. We can decide the percent complete, the duration here, our start and finish dates, the effort here. So let's say we'll start this here and we'll end it on the 17th. Custom fields, again, we can set predecessors. Now predecessors, let's say here, we have our pre-construction. So in order to start our training task, we're going to say we have to finish pre-construction in order to start. If we want to assign any lag to that, so maybe it needs to be 5 days after pre-construction finishes, in order for us to start our new task, we'll just go ahead and put that lag in. So this is where you're going to go ahead and set any of those predecessors or tie any of those tasks kind of together. Then you're going to be able to add any notes that you would like. When you're done filling all of that information out, you're just going to hit OK, and it's going to update it for you that way. There's going to be a bar in the middle. You'll see here that I've been dragging. This is just going to give you a better view of either side. So if you drag it over to the right-hand side, you're going to get a better view of all of the task information here. And then if we move it over to the left-hand side, you'll get a larger view of the schedule itself. Now you're going to see here on the view, I'm going to have, let me see if I can get over a little bit more. So I have my pre-construction task here. And then you'll see here, it is tied to, so it is set as a predecessor, or the training here is set as a predecessor to the pre-construction. So they are tied together. So meaning if any changes were made to this pre-construction, it would then also make that same change, making sure that we keep this kind of lag, that 5-day lag between the training and the pre-construction. Important to note is you're going to see a blue publish button over here on the side. Sometimes if you do switch from tab to tab, or let's say you get accidentally logged out, you do not want to lose any of this information. I just always say as a best practice to any of my clients, make sure when you are done making changes, especially if they are a lot of changes and you're going to get up and walk away from the computer, just make sure we hit this publish button. Now, when we hit publish, it's going to say export to plan room. That's fine. It is not going to actually export to your plan room. You are still going to need to come in and commit the actual schedule update itself in order for it to push. But this will save it for you so that you can come back in and make any changes later on. So if you aren't quite ready to commit it, don't let this verbiage at the top scare you. You can hit that publish and still save it so that you're kind of keeping those changes you're making and you're not losing any work that you've done. So you just give it a name, description, fill in all of these fields here, and then we'll select OK. And it's going to take just a second, and it's going to bring us to a manage schedule updates page. Alrighty. So you'll see here we have our manage page. So we've seen this multiple times in different tabs. On this page here, we'll see our schedule update. It's in green text, so it's still in draft, which means it hasn't been pushed to our plan room. When we are ready, we can come in here. Again, like I said, if you were just kind of publishing it, you're going to lunch, you're going to come back and continue working on it, you can just hit this edit button and continue your work. When you are ready though, you can go to your tools bar here and you can go ahead and commit the schedule. Now, once the schedule is committed, that is the point in time that this is going to be pushed into your planner. So any questions on the Gantt schedule?
Nothing in the Q&A or chat at the moment.
Fantastic. All right, so we're going to hop on over to the left here to our progress tab. And what we're going to take a look at is our daily progress report. So we are going to take a look at, what am I thinking? Filling out our progress report on the desktop version. Now, this can also be done on the mobile app, which we will see in a later webinar. But this is going to be how we're going to fill it out if we are doing it on the desktop. So I hit my plus new button in my progress tab. And it's going to open up this kind of console for me. And I'm going to see my workflow on the side. So I have 3 steps for this progress report. The first thing I'm going to do on my first step is I'm going to fill out this general information. So all of these fields are pretty self-explanatory. We're going to have our date. This will auto-populate to today's date. I could double click here and change this, or I can hit my calendar and change the date. We're going to choose the scope of the project. Now we're working in our original scope, but if this is for any change orders or anything like that, we can go ahead and choose that. We could select the phase of our project, and then we're going to select the author. So who is filling this out? So I'm going to go ahead and say Ashley. Next, we're going to have our weather. Now, our weather, just like the weather on our plan room, is being pulled from that location that we have set for our project. Now here in Orlando, especially, the weather can be a little finicky. So it's never really what it says it is. So let's say today it's going to be partly cloudy. It looks like 83 degrees. So let's say it actually rained a little bit. We can change those conditions and kind of report what actually happened on that day. So we do have some default conditions set for you. If you need to add any new, you certainly can. So let's say today it actually drizzled a bit. If we know the amount of precipitation there was, we can change the high and low if needed. Then the next, we're going to go ahead and fill out our census information. Now, our census information is going to essentially be the work on site for that day. So there are 2 ways we can do this. The first way is going to just be building out your census manually. So we're going to hit our add new census. We're going to select the company that was on site. So we're going to say 100% reliable was on site for that day. We're going to have the option here to rate this company, add any comments if we would like. We can choose a subscope if we would like to. We can tie this to a task. So the task is coming from our Gantt schedule. We'll say reconstruction. We could select a location. So if we want to say maybe this is in building 1, we'll go ahead and save that. Then we're going to choose our workers. Now, the main thing here is for our workers, are they included in productivity hours? So a laborer, a supervisor, a heavy equipment operator, or are they excluded from productivity hours? Did we maybe have some visitors on site? Maybe some staff members were on site. This is going to be important when you are configuring your progress reports. And we'll take a look at that in just a second, but just kind of keep that in mind. The main thing we're looking for, are they included in productivity hours? Are they excluded in productivity hours? So I'm going to go ahead and track here that there were laborers on site today. I'm going to go ahead and put the activity that they did. Let's say laid piping. Then we're going to go ahead and indicate how many workers were on site and what was the total hours. So I had, let's say, 2 workers on site that day. They were there for 8 hours. So there's 2 of them. So there was a total of 16 hours worked today for for 100% reliable. So once I filled all of that out, I'm just going to go ahead and save. Now, if I come down here, my census now has two sections. It has included in productivity hours, excluded from productivity hours. Now, if I wanted to, if I had already created previous progress reports, maybe 100% reliable is actually going to be on site for a couple of days. They're doing a lot of plumbing work. I can copy from a prior progress report. Now I do not have any prior progress reports on this project, but you would select from this drop down, you would select the project progress report that you want to bring the information in. Then it's going to give you a list of census information from that report and also observations if you maybe want to bring in observations. And you'll just check mark the ones that you want to bring over from that prior progress report and you'll hit save. Once you hit save, it's going to go ahead and drop it here in either productivity hours or excluded from productivity hours. And it's going to look just like this. So maybe I brought this in from another progress report. It's sitting here, but I want to edit this information. I can certainly do that by hitting that pencil. Let's say maybe today there was only one worker on site. Somebody called in. And so I want to change just a few pieces of information, a few little details. I can do that. I can come in here and I can hit the save button. So I still am updating the information, but it did still save me a little bit of time from having to build out the entire thing. Last is we're going to have our observations here. Now our observations are just going to be text boxes that we can go ahead and fill these in. So general comments, we'll just fill them in. There are a few ways that we can configure these text fields, and we'll show that to you in just a second when we go into our configuration menu to see how we can actually configure our progress reports. But there are a few things we could do, like we can restrict certain fields to certain roles in Red Team. So this project manager comments, maybe I only want a project manager to be able to answer this field here. So what I would do is restrict that. So if I came in and I am a superintendent, and I tried to fill this in, I would essentially be locked out of that. We do have also the option here of making fields company confidential. So that means anybody that is sent this progress report, yes, they will be able to see this field. But when it comes to reporting, when we're pulling our performance overview, this will be left out of that. So when we're done here, we're going to go to our next step, either by hitting the blue next step, or you can also just toggle by clicking step number 2. And this is where we are going to track our equipment utilization. If you have the permission to do so, you can add equipment from this tab. But mainly what we're going to do here is we are going to track our equipment utilization. So we're going to go ahead and select that. If we had any equipment here, we'll select what equipment we were adding. And we'll type in the utilization. So if we used it for 4 hours, if we used it for 5 hours, depending on the piece of equipment we had. We'll hit save when we're done with that, and it'll just kind of pop up here. Whether it was a company owned, it'll land here, or if it was rental equipment that we were tracking, it would land down in this section. Last, what we can do is add any attachments that we would like to our progress report. If we are filling this out on our mobile app, this is where we can come in our desktop and we'll be able to see the photos that are associated with that progress report. You can add really any attachments that you would like, keeping in mind these are the file types that are allowed, and then they cannot exceed this size. So when we're done filling all this information out, we're going to go ahead and close this form. It's going to bring us to our manage daily progress. When we're ready, we're still here in draft status. We can come in, we can make any edits that we want to. Maybe we didn't fill in all our observations at one time. We still need to fill in more details. We can just hit our edit button and go right back into that progress report. But when we're ready to commit, we'll come to our tools bar here and we'll just select the commit option. Select OK. And then let's take a look at what that progress report actually looks like. So this will open in your project console. We'll have our logo up at the top. It'll say daily progress report. You'll see your weather, some project information here at the top. You'll see that work on site. So that's that census information, again, divided by included in productivity hours and excluded. And then we'll see all of those observations that we answered. We're going to see our equipment utilization, some terms and conditions, and then any photos and attachments that we had. From here, you can email this out if you would like. The email is going to be that standard email box. So you just select who you're sending this to. You can add an optional message if you would like to. Now, when it comes to configuring this progress report, that's going to be in your configuration menu. So you will need the permissions to get into that configuration menu in order to do this. But you're going to come under projects and you're going to go to progress report. Now, this is going to pull up your standard configuration form for a document. You're going to see here some general information, that weather information, that census information, that all of that stuff that we filled out in step number 1. And you're going to go ahead and choose, is it required or not? Now, there are going to be some standard things that are required in order to commit these progress reports that we kind of have locked in. So you'll see those here in gray, but you can choose amongst the others. So maybe you want to make sure that all of the weather information is definitely filled in before you move forward with committing that progress report. You'll just check off those boxes. Now down here, we're going to configure our worker types. So this can be named whatever you would like it to be. So you do have that field to kind of change that if needed. You'll choose if it's required or not. Again, required meaning it is necessary that that piece of information is in the progress report in order to commit it. And then you're going to go ahead and configure your worker types. So we have laborers, heavy equipment operators, supervisor, visitors, all of these here. And then this is where over on the side, you are going to indicate, are they included in productivity hours? If they are, we'll check it off. And if they're excluded from productivity hours, we'll just leave that empty. Then you're going to have your observations that you're going to need to configure. So first thing, what we're going to do is we are going to configure our observation types. Now, these are these headings right here. So general, we have safety, quality. Pretty simple. We're just going to select add observation type, and we're going to type in the name of the heading or the type that we want. Now, to actually add the observations themselves, we're going to select add observation. I'm actually going to go into one that we already have created. So I'm going to edit here, the same field. So we're going to give it a short name. So this one says deliveries. The only time you're ever really going to see the short name is in this form. So you'll see here comments, delays, deliveries. The description is what is going to show up on the progress report. So this is what is actually being asked. It just happens to be the same as the short name. You're going to choose the type that it falls under. So ours falls under general, but if you need to move it into a different section, you can. Like I said, you can assign roles. So whoever can actually answer that text field is going to be added here. So we have our Red Team Internal, our system admin, site manager, superintendent can answer this field. You're going to choose whether it is active or not. Now, once you start using observations, you're going to lose the ability to delete them. This is to preserve historic data. So we don't want to delete something that you've used previously. So what you can do is you can come into this and you can inactivate it. What that'll do is that will still preserve your data. However, moving forward, this observation will no longer show up on progress reports needing to be answered. You can make it company confidential. So if you remember, with the little lock next to it is how we'll indicate that. Again, just meaning this field will not be pulled onto any reporting. You can go ahead and is this required in order to commit? And then display if empty. Now, if I have this checked off, in the case this is deliveries, if I have this checked off and I don't put anything in that text field for deliveries, when I commit and I save and I view my progress report, it's going to fill in the word none for me automatically. So this is essentially, it's helpful in the case of a yes, no, none type of situation. If I uncheck this here, what it's going to do is I put nothing in my text field for deliveries. Once I commit and I look at my progress report, that field is just going to be excluded from my report for that day if it was not filled in. So just kind of saves you a step if you don't really want to, you still want, like in this case, deliveries on there, but you do want to indicate there were none. Saves you a little time. You can just skip over it and this will go ahead and fill it in for you. And then you're just going to save those options. There are a lot of additional options here, so you can change the title of this daily progress report. I know some people like to call it a daily log. You can maybe just call it a progress report. So you can change this title to whatever you would like. You can arrange your sections, just lots of additional configurations that you can have. So it's always good to kind of take a look through this. And that's going to be it for the progress report. So do we have any questions concerning progress reports right now? All righty. So what we're going to move on to next is going to be our checklists. Now I'm going to start in configuration here, and then we'll move on to the actual checklist itself, because you are going to, if you have a newer database, you are going to need to go ahead and configure these checklists. So again, in your configuration menu under projects, this one's a little trickier to find, but it is going to be located under requests for corrections. So you'll see there's a little arrow here. You're just going to expand that list. And we're going to first start down at the bottom. We're going to first configure our checklist types, and then we're going to configure our checklist forms. So let's go ahead and take a look what it takes to do our types. So here in my training database, obviously I have closeout docs, equipment, punch list, quality, safety. So pretty simple. You're going to hit your plus new button. You're just going to give it a name, and you're going to choose, is it going to be displayed in your plan room? And then is it going to be displayed in your mobile app? And that's all you're going to need to do to configure your checklist types. You'll just save that there. And then next, what we're going to do is we're actually going to configure our checklist forms. Now, I already have a form that we're going to use. We'll take a look at that. But if you do need to create a whole new form, you'll come to your plus new button. When I come in to edit this daily safety checklist, the form's going to look exactly the same as if you hit this plus new button. So we're going to give our checklist a name. We're going to choose the checklist type. So this is what we had just configured. For this one, we're going to use safety. We're going to choose whether this is active or not. So the same idea with the observations. We don't want to delete anything that we have used previously. So we've used this daily safety checklist form before. I don't want to delete it. I want to preserve my data. So I can just come in here and inactivate it so that in the future, this checklist cannot be used. Next is accessibility. So if you are using company divisions, you can assign checklists to certain divisions, or you can assign it to your entire company. Last, what you're going to do on this checklist form is you're going to actually build out your checklist. So pretty similar to building out your observations on that progress report. You're going to come to this add here. And first, what we're going to do is configure our sections. So this is here, we have acceptable safety conditions. We have site observations. Again, just think of it as like a heading. So we'll go to our section here. We'll just give it a name and a narrative. Let me actually take a look at what we have already. So we have our name here, acceptable safety conditions, and then we have a narrative. So it goes a little bit deeper into detail as to what the section name actually means. When we get into our checklist, I will show you where you will see this, but on your checklist, it's going to say acceptable safety conditions. And right next to it, there's going to be a gray question mark. So whenever the user hovers over that gray question mark, they're going to be able to see this narrative here. And you'll just save that when you're done. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add our items. So these here are the fields that we're actually checking for. So the items that we're using for our checklist. So here we have like electrical exposures, fall protection. Let's go ahead and just get into one here and we'll edit it. So if we hit plus new on items, it's going to bring up the same form. So we're going to give it a title. So electrical exposures. And again, just to save some space, this narrative here is going to be hidden under that question mark. So we're going to put a narrative, kind of giving in more detail what it is that we are asking. So are all panel and inline GFCIs, are they secure? So we'll fill that narrative in here. We're going to have our section that this is sitting under. So this is sitting under our acceptable safety conditions. Is this required in order to commit our checklist? And then we're going to choose our response. So we do have a few responses you can choose from. Yes, no, non-applicable, affirmative, negative, pass, fail. Then we're going to have an outcome. So for this checklist, our outcome label here are the safety conditions corrected and acceptable. We're going to choose how we are tracking that outcome. So for mine, we are tracking it via a drop down in my labels for that drop down or yes and no. So those are my options. But you could do check boxes. You can do it by date, linear scale, number, paragraph, single choice, however you want to configure your outcome label. And then we're just going to save those. So you're just going to build out your entire checklist here. And then when you're done, you'll just back out of that form. So we're going to hop back into our training project, and then we're going to fill out an actual checklist. So give me just 1 second here. All right, so I'm going to go to my home button under job site management, and I'm going to select my checklist. So I'm going to go to my plus new button. You're going to see here I'm on my manage checklist page. So plus new, I'm going to choose the checklist that I want to fill out. So I want to do my daily safety checklist. We're going to fill out some general details. So of course, the date, the author, the scope of the project. If we have any phases, we can also give this a description and add any attachments. Then what we're going to do is we're going to actually just go through and fill out the checklist itself. So this is what I was talking about. So you're going to have like the title of that heading here. So acceptable safety conditions. And if I hover over that check mark is where I'm going to see that narrative. Same with my items, electrical exposures. If I hover over that question mark is where I see that additional detail that is really what I'm looking for. So just kind of saves some space, keeps it a little cleaner looking. And then just to get more detail, they can hover over that question mark there. This is pretty simple from here on out. So we have our electrical exposures. We're going to see exactly what's asked of us. We'll say yes, and then we'll just keep moving through our checklist. So let's say we get to one, we're on our first aid kits. Are they accessible and fully stocked? So we take a look. We say no, we are missing a first aid kit where it should be. We're going to go ahead and say no. Now, what we're going to want to do is we want to get this corrected. We have a safety inspection coming up. We want to make sure that we have our first aid kit there. So we're not docked for that. So what I can do from here is I can go to my plus button and create a request for correction directly from this item. My type is going to be filled out already because this is the type that my checklist is. My scope of the project, I filled that out previously up in my general details. So it's going to fill out for me already. I'm going to choose the location. So we'll say this is in building 1. We'll say it's a missing first aid kit. Choose the author. So I'm signed in as myself. So that's what it's going to choose for me. Responsible, who is responsible for fixing this? So let's go ahead and say First Orlando Handyman Services. We're going to choose the date this is required on. Again, they're coming tomorrow. So let's say we want to get this done today. We can add any attachments if we want to. I mean, it doesn't really make sense in this situation, but we could take a picture of where the first aid kit should be and it's empty. So kind of show them that that's there. Or maybe we had an electrical exposure and this is what we're creating our request for correction for. We can show them exactly what needs to be corrected. So we can add those files. And then again, do we want to keep this company confidential or not? Again, just kind of leaving this out of any reporting. When we're done filling all of this out, we're going to hit save. From here, we could do a couple of things. We can keep going, answering our questions through our checklist. But again, this is kind of an emergency situation for us right now. We want to get this done. So what I'm going to just do now is I'm going to hit save. It's going to keep that in draft status for me. But I want to go ahead and send that request for correction out so that we can get this started. So I'm going to come here to my, we call it a little hamburger menu. So we'll go ahead and select that. I'm in a safety type. So I'm going to look for safety. And this is going to bring up my request for corrections for safety. So we'll see it here in draft status. Of course, if I want to make any edits, I can hit my pencil here. I want to go ahead and commit this and send this out. So I'm going to hit commit, select OK. I'm going to go ahead and view this here. So this is what that request for correction is going to look like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this out. Now, let's say that we sent this to John in order to correct this. And he just tells me, hey, I completed it, so on and so forth. What we can do is we can come back into our tools bar and we're going to mark this as completed. So we can, if again, in this situation, it doesn't make sense to add a photo, but maybe we needed some patchwork on a hole in a wall. We could take a picture that it was completed, it was done. Just you could drop any files here. We can give the date that it was done. So he finished it that day for us. And we can say, for say, hit replenished. And then we'll just save. So we'll be able to scroll over. We could see our remarks. We can see that it was completed on this day here. Now, all we're going to do is we are going to want to go and double check that this was completed. So we're going to either want to approve this correction or reject it. So let's say we approve it. We can give the date we're approving it on, who it was approved by, the status. We'll go ahead and say it's committed. We can give any revision notes if needed. And then we're just going to save this. Now in our approved and rejected column here, it'll tell us this was approved on which date and by who. So I'm good to go. I feel better now. That's taken care of. So what I'm going to do is go back to my manage checklists and I'm just going to finish my checklist. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my edit button and continue on answering all of my items here. Now, when I'm done answering my items, I'm going to go ahead and select save. Again, that brings me to my manage checklists. When I'm done making all of my edits and I'm ready to commit, again, I'll come to my tools bar here and I'll select commit. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So we're going to see here, it's our daily safety checklist. We have our logo at the top, the project we're working on, those general details we filled out. And then these are all of our answers that we have. Now we do have a neat little visual up at the top. You're going to be able to see some data as far as how many yeses, how many nos, and then how many non-applicables as far as a percentage. So from here, you can email this out. Again, print, save as PDF. Any questions on the checklist?
No questions in here at the moment.
Perfect. All right. So last thing we're going to take a look at is a little bit of reporting when it comes to job site management. And that's going to be through our performance overview. So we're going to find this in this view button. Just as a little side note, each of our tabs here is going to have a view button, and that is going to pull reporting that is relevant to the information that is on that page. We have a ton of reporting in RedTeam Flex. So I always kind of say, take a look through all of it. If you're ever wondering, do we have a report for it? It's always best to kind of go to the tab that you think correlates best. And again, just select this view button and go through and see if it pulls the information that you are looking for. So again, lots of reports to kind of take a look through. Some of them are really, really neat. So this one, what we're going to do just for today is our performance overview. This one is great. There's a lot of information that you can pull onto it. So you can name this whatever you want to. It's going to go standard as performance overview. And then you have a few options. So you could just say, I want to select all. I want to bring all of these fields onto this report. Or what you can do is you can customize this. So you'll be able to choose, do you want to bring in your schedule of values? And then do you want all of your schedule value items, maybe just contingency, non-contingency? For job site management, you're going to be able to choose to bring progress reports onto this report. So you could choose a date range. You can even choose by author and scope of the project. Now you can even go a little bit deeper there and you can choose what exactly from the progress reports you're bringing into this report. So is it just that census information, that work on site, maybe all the observations, or maybe you just want certain observations, maybe certain groups of observations, or just certain observations within those groups. So a lot of detail in the progress report that you can do. For contract changes, you can choose to bring in all changes, maybe just authorized, potential, canceled. For scheduling, you could bring in projected milestones through a certain date or completed milestones through a certain date range. Here. For contracting, we could bring in some contract details, RFIs we can bring in, and we could choose to bring in open RFIs or all of them. Any open issues we can bring in, action items for submittals. We can choose whether they're open or all, and we can also choose to include rejected submittals. We have our billing history we can bring in if we'd like, and then any photos or attachments. Again, this could be a through date, and then we can choose maybe specific authors or scopes of the project. So again, really neat report, a lot of information. There's a lot you can do with this report. It is very customizable. If you're pulling the same report over and over again and you don't want to have to come through and make these, selections each and every time, you can save your selections. So you could just hit save selection. You can also arrange it. So this can be arranged and viewed in whatever way you would like. You'll just drag and drop the sections and just kind of move them into the order that you would like them seen. Then we're going to hit the next button, and this is going to take us into the actual form itself. So this is what it's going to look like. Pretty standard. So logo at the top, it's going to say performance overview or whatever you decided to call it for that time. You're going to see those project details here at the top. For here, we brought for my contract changes, the contract details, our progress report information here, schedule of values, milestones. So just all of this information that I chose to bring in is just all on this one report. So I can attach this to any email coming out of Red Team. I can print and save it as a PDF. Maybe I want to post this into my project plan room. I can again save this as a PDF, put it in that other files tab so that this can be viewed. Just really neat report. And I believe that is going to be it for job site management in RedTeam Flex today. Do we have any additional questions about anything we've gone over?
I am not seeing anything in the chats right now, but guys, feel free if you have any last questions, go ahead and type those in. We can hang on a couple minutes before we close the meeting out.
Yep. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. And again, if you have any questions, just let us know. Thank you.